I'm already seeing there's someone who wrote that they think that they're at level 8, so they already know quite a lot about LinkedIn. There's someone around 6, so a bit in between. And then there's also 3 answers around 3 and 4, so a little bit of knowledge, but they would like to know more. Did everyone have a chance to answer? Ariel, did you have any extra answers in the chat maybe?
From the chat. I think everyone was able to access the Mentimeter.
Okay. So that was just an initial engaging question, so we can see a bit where everyone is at joining this call. It is globally going to be more oriented towards beginners and people who maybe already have a profile but would like to know more about how they can update it. So we can get right ahead to looking at the structure of today's presentation. So the first section will be about how LinkedIn is different than other social media platforms, just a short presentation on how it is a bit different than, for example, Facebook or Instagram. The second part will be about how to set up your personal LinkedIn profile. The third part is about how to set up a company page. The fourth part is about how your personal LinkedIn profile is also linked to the performance of your company page. And the fifth part, which is a bit shorter, is about how to use your LinkedIn network in parallel to also face-to-face networking. So first part, how is LinkedIn different than other social media platforms? So first of all, when LinkedIn was launched, it was also a place for recruiters to list jobs, for people to put their resumes online. So it was primarily used for finding people jobs via these connections. But since then, LinkedIn has also evolved into becoming a social media network platform. So it's designed specifically for the business community. So LinkedIn is also now a resource for professionals to find jobs. They can research companies, and they can also get news about the industry and business connections that they have. So it's usually more of a closed network. Members usually tend to connect with people that they already know or have been introduced to by someone in their network. So this is what makes also LinkedIn ideal for being a professional relationships builder. LinkedIn is also a platform that boasts having more than 740 million professionals from various industries. So that is a big amount of users that are present on LinkedIn. And the graphic that you can see below is visualizing the distribution of LinkedIn users worldwide as of January 2023. These statistics tend to change also a bit globally, but these are the ones since January. So at 21.7%, we have people that are aged between 18 and 24. So that's roughly like the mid-range Gen Z generation. Then in the 60%, so the biggest amount of users on LinkedIn are 25 to 34, so the younger millennials. And then 15.4% is 35 to 54-year-olds. And then the smallest percentage of users on LinkedIn are 2.9%, so the 55 plus. That also makes sense. It also includes the age group of people who have already retired. So as always, also some of the information that I give, there's a link at the bottom where you can click on the statistics if you want to check the source. So when I share the PowerPoint presentation after this call, you can also check deeper into some of the information that is given. So we're moving on to how to set up your personal LinkedIn profile. So in general, LinkedIn starts with your own profile, so you can invest some time into creating an eye-catching profile and positioning yourself as best as you can. So the LinkedIn profile page is the foundation of your personal branding, and LinkedIn regularly adds features to increase its capabilities and also use it as a personal marketing platform. And it gives you new ways to signal your skills and motivations. So if you haven't checked your page recently or in a while, you might also find new ways to build your personal brand on LinkedIn. So to start off, before I get into the actual information, we have a profile example, and this profile is partially incomplete. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to like examine the profile, and then we're going to go back into Mentimeter app and you can answer some questions. But you won't be able to see this profile anymore, so it's helpful to take a few minutes to have a look at it. I think you might have had enough time just to get a first impression of this profile. So we are going back to Mentimeter. So the first question is based on this profile, what do you think is missing? So you can insert your responses here. I'm already seeing two responses which are about the same. So a background photo, or like the header image as it's called on LinkedIn. Description, a bit more detail to the profile. Also a background picture, and that not the whole profile is in English. Employment history could have more detail. So again, a bit more detail in the employment history. So for example, age, their diploma, their specialization, competencies. So I think people are noticing a bit the same things that are missing in this profile. Background image. I think everyone had the time to answer this one. So moving on to the next question is, based on the profile, what do you think was done well? Already two responses for profile picture. Beautiful profile picture of Aileen, and also a clear job title. Clear employer, yes, the employer is visible. So KIYO is also visible, the logo. They link to organization, that's also positive. Complete name. Timeline of functions is also visible, yes. And it's nice to see the university where she studied. I think everyone had time to answer now. Where she lives, Brussels, yes, you can add your location. That also helps since it's a professional platform. And a brief presentation of their professional journey, yes. So now we can go on to the more technical aspect of explaining how to set up your profile picture on LinkedIn. So first step is, of course, to have a recent profile picture that actually looks like you. Your profile picture is kind of your calling card on LinkedIn, so it's how people are introduced to you, and it can also govern their impression of you from the start. Some of you mentioned Aileen looks nice and she's smiling, so that gave you a good impression of her when you open her profile. So you want to make sure your picture is recent. It looks like your face should usually take up around 60% of the framing because long distance shots don't really stand out. And the clothes you want to wear are generally clothes that you would also wear to work. So the second part of your profile that you want to make sure that you update is to personalize your banner image or your background photo. That was also mentioned when I asked what you thought was missing from her profile. So your background photo is the second visual element at the top of your profile page. It's also what grabs people's attention. It sets a bit of context, and it can also show a little bit more about what matters to you. And more than anything, also the right background photo helps your page stand out. It can engage attention, and it can also stay a bit memorable. So something you can do with that background photo is you can also include your company name, and you can also sometimes include your company tagline on the background photo. And something that organizations can also choose to do, it might be a bit easier, is you can also make a set of branded company banners that your team members can choose from and then use, because it tends to be harder if individuals have to make their own background picture. So the third part of your profile that you want to fill in next is to make your headline also a bit more than just a job title. So you can use it to say more about yourself and how you see your role and why you do what you do, what motivates or interests you. And in this section, you can also add keywords that are related to you or your company and what you do, along, of course, with the title of your current function, which is also a base piece for your headline. So these are two examples of headlines that are more than just a job title. So the first one is my example. The first part is the name of my role and the company that I work at. And the second part has our tagline, but our tagline also explains a bit more about the type of work that we do. The second example is from someone called Herendis Ates. He's a LinkedIn ambassador. So his headline features a bit more his marketing of the skills and the services that he offers. It's a bit longer. And then the fourth part of your profile that you want to make sure you complete is to complete your LinkedIn summary. You want to make sure that you actually have one. So your summary is a chance to tell your own story. So you don't want to only use it to list your skills and the job titles you've had. You can try to bring to life why those skills matter and the difference that they can make for the people that you work with. So you can tell people here a bit more about yourself, what you find important, and you can shortly list as well your professional experiences and background. So this is usually your personal piece of content marketing, and it can be worth the effort to fill it in and add more into it. And then a next part that comes just under your about section is you can list relevant skills. This is a function within LinkedIn. So you can usually scroll through the list of skills and identify those that are relevant to you. This can help substantiate the description in your headline and summary, and it provides a platform also sometimes for other connections that you have on LinkedIn to endorse you. It's another function on LinkedIn. People can endorse the skills that you have, kind of like verifying that you do indeed have them. So the key here is also to stay relevant. So if you have a very long list of skills and they aren't really core to who you are and what you do currently, then it can start to feel a bit cumbersome. So you can take the time once in a while to spring clean the list of skills that you have and make sure that they're relevant to you currently. So this is another additional feature that is available for your profile on LinkedIn. You can create your profile in a language that is different than your default profile. So you can change the language of your primary profile, but from your primary profile, you can create as many additional language profiles from the options that are available. So having multiple languages on a profile makes it easier for other members and recruiters to find you. This can especially be useful if you have a multilingual presence on LinkedIn or in your sector of work. So on the top right corner, you can see an example of what it looks like when a profile has, for example, several languages. You can click the button to change the language. And below on the slide, you can see there's a link to a how-to page on how to set that up. So you will be able to click on that link when I share the PowerPoint with you later. Another additional feature that is available to you on LinkedIn for your personal profile that is good to make use of is there's a LinkedIn QR code. It makes it easy to meet someone offline and stay in touch. So this feature provides a simple and efficient way to find LinkedIn members and then to connect with them quickly by scanning a QR code. So each LinkedIn member has their own QR code. This function is only available on the phone application. So again, below there's a link on how you can find it via iOS or Android. And this is a page to show you what it will look like on your phone app. So normally it's next to your search bar on the right. There's a button there where you can find the QR code function. And then it will display your QR code for your profile. And if you meet someone in person, they can also just scan your QR code on your phone to easily connect with you. So now we're moving on to showing some examples of LinkedIn profiles that are complete. So this first example is my own. So as we said, there's a personalized banner image. Mine features the organization logo and the KIYO tagline as well in a more subtle way. My name is complete. My headline is also complete with my job function where I work, and then I also added the tagline for KIYO. And as we said, also it shows where I worked, and then it has my university experience. And then on the right, you can see that I fully filled in my about section. I tried to also make it a bit more personalized. And then my experiences, of course, are also filled in. So this is another example of the start of a profile. So this is again the LinkedIn ambassador. So his profile is a bit more on the marketing angle. So as you can see, his headline has more than just a job title. It lists the skills and the services that he offers. His banner image also advertises the work that he does. And his company name is also present. And you can see he also has a coherent branding for himself and his company that is visible in his profile. And these are two other examples of banner images that you could create. So this one, for example, is a bit more subtle, but it integrates the company's tagline into the banner, not their logo, but it still has some personal branding in it.
Anushka, is this something that you could provide us with, that you can make for all of us? I think it would be great if we can all use the same one.
Yes, I can make some. Eileen had also suggested that.
That would be great. Yeah, thanks.
So this is another example which is a lot more subtle. At first glance, you might think that it's just an image that they liked and chose. But as you can see, like their company is called Greenhouse Software, and the use of the finger imprint is also part of the company's branding. So the next part now is more about personal engagement and your activity on the platform. So these are some tips related to that. So first thing that's useful to do is to follow relevant influencers in your industry. It helps to put a range of interesting content on your feed, which you can then share with others if you think it adds value. And it also helps give context to your LinkedIn profile. It can demonstrate a passion for what you do. The next tip is to also share relevant content from your LinkedIn feed. So it's one thing to have a network of connections on LinkedIn, but it's far better to have an active role in that network and appearing in your connections' LinkedIn feeds in a way that also adds value to them. So when you share relevant content with your network, it's one of the most accessible ways of doing this. You can make a start by keeping a close eye on your LinkedIn feed and then sharing content that you find genuinely interesting and that also aligns with your point of view. So you can post a mix of direct posts, which like you directly make a post and post it. But you can also add links to your post, which will then lead people to click further to something else, for example, linking to a website page. And lastly, there's also the ability to add a featured post to your profile. So it's a bit like pinned posts on other social media platforms, like on Facebook, on Instagram. You can choose to pin a post and it will always appear at the start of your profile. You can do this as well with your personal profile on LinkedIn. So this is a passive type of content that's always present to people who visit your profile at first glance. The next tip is, of course, to make use of adding comments. So sharing is great, but it's just a starting point. So when you add comments to your shares, you can also give yourself a greater prominence within the feed, and you can also start to express why you think maybe this particular piece of content matters. So while express comments also enable you to share a broader range of content. And it's also usually more likely to draw in more comments, which can then raise your profile on LinkedIn. So the fact that you added a comment might incite people to also add to the discussion and comment. So when you add a comment, you just want to make sure that you're saying something that you're happy that people will associate you with, of course, because this is a profile that is visible to everyone. And another point that I like to add is, as you can see on screen, this is a list of LinkedIn paid subscriptions. I'm sharing this because LinkedIn also offers various paid or premium subscriptions, which members can opt for based on their needs. But you can perfectly well start off with a free account and make use of that. But I'm showing this because some of the functions on LinkedIn are only available to paid subscriptions. So for example, being able to see who viewed your profile is only available to a paid function. For some profiles, you can't send a DM directly. You need to be in a paid program to be able to send them a DM. So these are things that you might encounter when using LinkedIn. So the next part now is about how to set up your company page. So the first question might be like, why should you create a company page? So the answer here is very simple. It's just, it makes sense to have a company page if your industry is present on the platform. So LinkedIn is mainly used as a business-to-business platform and not a business-to-customer platform, which is more adapted for Facebook or Instagram. So here's a bit about company page versus personal profiles. So your personal profile is where you have your connection, and your LinkedIn page has followers as well. But then you use in general, your LinkedIn company page to recruit and to advertise, if you put it basically. So one of the first steps for setting up your company page, LinkedIn walks you through it when you create a page and which parts you need to fill in. But these are some statistics on why it's important to complete your company page. So in general, pages that have complete information will get 30% more weekly views. So the best practice is to fill in all the information, including your logo, your overview, organization information, and all of that. And also something to keep in mind is that members can search you by keywords. So the more complete and the more relevant your page is, the better. So companies that have done this and are active on their page, of course, that's also important. They tend to see a 5 times lift in their page views, a 7 times lift in their average impressions per follower, and an 11 times lift in clicks per followers. So additionally, companies that also post on LinkedIn weekly will see a 2 times higher increase in engagement rate. So this is part of the challenges, I think, of having a LinkedIn company page, is that the more active you are on it, the more likely you are to do better with your visibility. So this part is about how your LinkedIn personal profile is also linked to your company page's performance. So in most cases on LinkedIn, we all know we tend to only follow company pages when someone invites us to follow them. The metrics are shown that employee shared posts get 561% higher reach than corporate posts. So the impact of employees who share content can really be huge. And the most effective employee shares are also those who have built their own personal brand and network connections on LinkedIn. So one of the benefits of a person-led social media presence is that your company page could have maybe a fantastic mix of content, but you wouldn't reach as many people without the employee personal profiles that amplify it. So this also is where employee advocacy can play a role. So employee advocacy, if you put a definition that's simple, it's promoting your company by the people who work for it. So people who advocate for their employers on social media all the time, that happens. And so an example is if you see a Facebook post from someone and they, for example, say that they just had a great catered lunch at work and then they thank their employer, that counts as employee advocacy. So also on LinkedIn, for example, sharing the latest post from your company blog, that also counts as employee advocacy. So employee advocacy is a marketing tactic, and it's a strategic and sustainable program to encourage employees to share brand values and messages in a more organic way. I also noted that participation should be voluntary and out of genuine interest, because here you're inspiring advocacy and not mandating it. It's also going to be more genuine if people share it because they want to. And so if you use your company page to promote branded contents, you can then encourage also your teams to add their personal stories and experiences that are related to this content. So this has significant employee advocacy benefits, but it also brings prospects closer to your company ethos. So they might already know a bit about your mission and statement, but then when you add on your team's personal profiles, it can show them how you actually put your mission into practice. So employee advocacy can also be used for attracting new business, for example. So the goal here is to amplify your brand through the networks of your employees. That can also dramatically boost the visibility, also potentially capture the attention of any new prospects or customers. So when this is the objective, employees are often encouraged to share content that will also appeal to the types of people that your organization is trying to seek to do business with. Employee advocacy can also add to attracting new talent. So most organizations are making efforts to foster like a high workplace morale through employee perks, company outings, personal development initiatives, and so forth. But it can sometimes be difficult to promote these efforts from up top, without sounding a bit self-congratulatory. So if you empower your employees to share experiences and impressions from their own perspectives, it can communicate these benefits in a way that's a lot more authentic and relatable to an external audience. So this is an example of an employee advocacy program that is oriented towards talent acquisition. So we would want to share company news, products and services information, job postings, and open positions can be reshared by employees. They can share recaps from company events or outings. And there's also what we call day in the life content, which is just portraying like the daily office culture that you have. And then employee posts that are more oriented towards brand visibility is you can, for example, share the marketing collateral that you produce for your organization. This can also add an extra dimension to your own personal profile. You can also share, for example, case studies, articles, and other brand content that help show what the organization you work for is all about. And it can also help people understand what motivates you personally. And it can also sometimes demonstrate a bit of your passion and your commitment as well to the work that you do. So here's a recap of the benefits of having a personal profile versus having a LinkedIn company page. So you tend to use your personal profile to share and amplify your company page content. You use it to connect and talk with prospects and customers. You use your personal profile to also send messages. And you can post original content on your own profile. Whereas the company page is normally used to run paid ads, for example, you are going to post branded content there, and it also serves to increase your credibility of your company or organization. So the final section is about how to use your LinkedIn network in parallel also to face-to-face networking. So the first part about networking is, well, first tip is that you shouldn't be afraid to clean up your connections, of course, quality over quantity. So if some of your connections don't match up anymore with your current sector of work, the network that you would like to build, etc., then you have two options. You can either completely remove someone from your connections, or if you don't feel at ease removing someone from your connections, you can also keep the connection but unfollow them via their profile. So it's like a way to mute them from appearing in your feed, but you will still have the connection. Another tip is if you sent a connection request and they didn't respond to it, they say that you can withdraw the connection and try again within 3 weeks if you don't want to be too pushy with your connection requests. And another way that you can try and find new connections is via what they call big fish or someone else's profile. So you can go through someone's profile who's maybe a bit more prominent on LinkedIn or in the sector that you work in, and you can go through their list of connections and try to find any connections that you might find interesting and try to connect with them that way. So another question might be like, why would you share your LinkedIn profile with someone when you meet them in person? So doing this is a way to ensure that your relationship will continue beyond that initial meeting. So when you connect with someone on LinkedIn, you can then have the time to take a look at their personal profile after the meeting, find out more about them. And it also helps the process of starting to try and build a relationship with that person. It can help it start straight away without having any gaps. With in-person meetings, you might have a few days or a week before you see that person again. So another good practice is you can also send them a direct message to, for example, say how nice it was to meet them. And it makes the follow-up also a bit easier here. to add in a personal touch of sending them a message. So here are some examples of messages that you could send to someone after meeting them. So the first one is, for example, if the person is in the same LinkedIn group as you, on screen you'll see an example of a message that you could send. The following is another example if you met someone, for example, at a networking event. So it's another example of a direct message you could send someone afterwards as a follow-up. And that was actually the conclusion, the overall view that we had of LinkedIn and how to set up your own page, set up your company page, how they're linked to each other, and then some practical tips for how to best use LinkedIn and how to network via LinkedIn.